Hello, all my wonderful people. Thank you again for joining us on the Lighten Up Project. My name is Malcolm Grissom. I am the stand-up CEO and founder of the World Laughter Organization, and you're not. So today on the Lighten Up Project, we're tackling a topic that makes people sweat more than dodgeball in the middle school. Money. We're talking about money today. My guest, Andrew Quebbemann, is a financial advisor with Gold Book Financial and the creator of a refreshingly radical idea. There's no shame in a dollar. Andrew helps people understand that money isn't a moral failing, personality test, or something you apologize for at dinner parties. It's a tool. I wish I knew him when I was younger. And you get to hear him now. And when you use this tool with confidence and clarity, it operates and it creates optionality, which is a fancy way to say freedom. It creates freedom. In fact, Andrew does this wonderful impression of Mel Gibson. And beyond is freedom. Anyway, when he's not helping people rethink their money mindset, he's at car shows and he's teaching kids hockey and he's being supervised by his corgi colt. He absolutely believes that all treats are essential expenses. Please help me welcome Andrew Quebbemann.
Malcolm, thank you. That was a wonderful introduction. And I have to say, I've been looking so forward to being on your show this whole week. And to all of you listening, you're in the right spot. I love Malcolm's mission to just bring laughter to the world.
And mistakes are gifts. See, that's the wonderful thing about improv. It teaches us that mistakes are gifts. Andrew, I mispronounced your last name that second time around.
I mean, that happens all the time.
I don't know why I just invented, let's call him Quebbemann. Yes.
Yeah.
I put an R there. I'm sorry.
Quite right. That actually is the most common mispronunciation of my name, is that R going in there.
Did I ever tell you that the very first time that I did stand-up comedy, the MC announced me as Malachi Chisholm? Yeah. So
I guess I'll take the R then.
Yeah. Hey, Andrew, do you mind joining me in 20 seconds of spontaneous laughter?
Sure.
All right. Let's go. All right. So, Mr. Quebbemann. I'm sorry, Quebbemann.
Yeah.
Quebbemann.
That's what I always got short when I was a kid. I think my first nickname was Q-Man, then Quebs, Quebetron. That was the whole thing.
All right. Yeah. What is your relationship with laughter, sir?
My relationship with laughter is, I'm the kind of person that like if I'm watching something funny, like a TV show or movie or whatever in the other room and I'm alone, I'm still going to laugh and you're going to hear me in the other room. So, cause I love stuff like, I guess kind of more like old school slapstick stuff. So like modern day equivalent, like I love the Minions because I think they're just big goofballs and they beat on each other and then they just laugh about it. That's, that's my kind of stuff. So yeah, I mean, I actually, just in preparation for this conversation, I actually watched a video on Instagram I knew would make me laugh just to get ready for this. So,
Interesting. Thanks for sharing that. There's something else that just popped into my head as you mentioned that, being in the other room. So in my episode, it's episode, it's still in season 1. It's when was it? I think it was the beginning of National Humor Month. Let's see. I'll look it up exactly. No, it was the beginning of Mental Health Month. So May. Back on May 7th, it was episode 20 in actually season 2. I shared a story about how laughter saved my life. And it was laughter that I overheard, someone in the other room. So thank you for mentioning that, because even the power of hearing someone else laugh is extremely comforting and does wonders. So,
yeah. Well, that's cool. That's a cool story. I would have never thought that. And, I'm just, laughing because I thought it was funny. So, just another example of kind of how that, carries us all forward.
Mm-hmm. So, Andrew, what was your favorite game as a kid?
My favorite game as a kid, really without question, was hockey. So that was my favorite, game. But if we're talking more like board games or, that kind of stuff, my brother and I and some friends of ours, we played a game called Warhammer 40,000, which was a tabletop game where like you build and paint your own miniatures and then you pretty much just argue for the next 3 to 4 hours. Because there's a lot of interpretation with the rules and everything. But so we enjoyed the heck out of that game.
Okay. A perfect segue to our game here at the Lighten Up Project. We're playing 2 truths and a lie. So we start every episode with 2 truths and a lie about our guest, and our listeners need to listen carefully and see if they can detect and find out the answer by the end of the episode. So, Andrew's truths and a lie is actually that he not only did he love playing hockey, but he was at one point in his life a professional hockey player. Another thing is that he was run over by a boat. And the third was that he started working when he was 10. He worked at a candy store. Okay, so candy store, run over by the boat, professional hockey player. See if you can guess. All right, Andrew. So when is the time, either early on or now, can you tell us a moment when you experienced pure genuine laughter, and tell us how that felt in your body.
Yeah, well, I'll go with the most recent example because this brought me to tears. It was this, like I said, I love slapstick humor. And so it was this video where 3 guys were blindfolded and they all had metal trays about, I don't know, 6 to 12 inches large, and they're aluminum, so nothing like super heavy, but they're all blindfolded, and then they were in these cylinders, and they would pop up and pop down and try to hit one another in the head with these metal trays. And of course, they're blindfolded, so sometimes you're seeing them swing and miss. Sometimes like someone gets hit in the face and it's not expected, so like you see that whole body reaction. And the more this video was going, I just kept, like, the laughter kept building and building. And, then this poor guy that was in the middle, like, he got hit like twice in a row by each guy from the other side. And like, I absolutely lost it. I started crying, tears coming down my face. And I was going into I think that did it over my lunch break. So I had a meeting coming up after lunch, and I had to go like blow my nose and wipe my eyes because it looked like I was like crying, because I was, but I was crying because it was so stupid. Like it's not anything really intelligent. But I think the blindfold element for the guys, like, it just added the uncertainty for them of like, and the shock of when they got hit. It just killed me.
Okay. So that brings up a very interesting transition. So you said you were at work when you were watching this?
Yeah, it was just over my lunch break.
Right.
What I do on a regular basis is pretty serious. I try to inject some levity into it, but we're having really, really serious conversations. And so I just use that as a way to kind of pick things up a little bit, at lunchtime there.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And you did this right before a meeting,
Mm-hmm.
which is cool. Now, when do you think it is, when do you think that it is inappropriate to laugh or play at work?
For my job, I guess the inappropriate moments would be when someone, like, because when I have conversations with folks, we're talking about, what have they done in the past with their money, and what are they really concerned about? What are their fears? And when they're opening up and getting vulnerable, like really sincerely vulnerable, because I believe in some cases I end up knowing some of the people that I work with better than their best friends in a lot of cases. And so that would be a situation where I'd say it's probably inappropriate to laugh, at someone sharing, some big fears of theirs. And so that's where, we try to lighten it up in other spots. But in that moment, acknowledge what it is and sympathize or empathize, where appropriate.
Now, laughter is very, very vulnerable. Now, one of the reasons why comedy producers have it in the dark, they keep their comedy clubs and whatnot in the dark, is because people don't want to laugh. People don't want to see others. People don't want others to see them laugh. Sometimes. Sometimes. Anyway. And because laughter can be, depending on the amount of laughter, I mean, when people can laugh, like you said in your example, you're laughing so hard you started to cry, and there have been stories of people where they're not only are they crying, but there's fluid coming out of all other body, and it's not necessarily a pretty thing, but it's very vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
So here you are talking about a vulnerable moment, and
Mm-hmm.
yes, we don't want to see, there's a thing in our culture that people tend to think when you're laughing at something. You're laughing at them, or you're laughing at the situation. And it's a shame that that's in effect, because there is this joy that people get from laughing that they're not able to experience in certain moments or situations.
Sure.
So what the question is, and I'm getting back to it, I know I'm talking a lot, but what the question is do you think that there's a way to interject play, not necessarily laughter,
Mm-hmm.
but play into these very serious and vulnerable moments that you are referring to?
Yeah, absolutely. And I try to keep some, quick anecdotes on standby for kind of lightening the mood. And some of it's in how I deliver things with people too, because I agree, like laughter can be vulnerable, but I always feel like a room full of laughing people, like that there's immediate bond that can happen between all the individuals, and all of a sudden we're collectively laughing together. You're getting an instant human recognition pattern of like, we're together, we're in this, we're, understanding and accepting the situation for what it is, and it's funny, and that's okay.
Yeah. Okay. So if laughter had a job title, what would it be and why?
I think minion is a good, job title for laughter. I think Despicable Me got that one right. I think, those characters and what laughter is, right? It's making the situation like it's difficult to laugh half-hearted. Like, it's the same as ways it's difficult to play a game half-hearted. Like, if you play the game half-hearted, everyone else that you're playing with is going to know that you're not putting it all in. It's going to be less fun. But when you fully laugh, and like the minions, they're always full in, right? They're always eating all the candy or blowing each other up, or, the big high fives or the big hugs, whatever it is. They're always all in. And I think that's the job of laughter, is to, bring everyone all in and all together.
Well put. Yes. Well put. So, money. How does or where does laughter or play, because not necessarily just laughter, but play of any type, where does that come into relationship with money?
I would love to see laughter, be more associated with money. I think a lot of people grow up, money is this taboo topic, right? Can't ask what your neighbor makes, or if they get a new car, you can't ask, how much did you pay for it? There's societal norms around it that are quote unquote not polite. And then when it gets down to it, it just adds a lot of anxiety and angst, and that was the way I grew up, which, like, we didn't know what my parents made for money. We didn't know what they were doing to set aside anything for retirement. So that's just the way it was. It wasn't even questioned. I didn't even know to ask the question. But money is just a tool. and the emotions that go with it, if anything, should be light. I know in casinos, not too many people are really laughing when they, put the money on red and they lose it. But if you look at it and step back, it's kind of funny because you thought something was going to pop up one way and it didn't. And it was a random chance scenario in which it didn't happen. And it wasn't the roulette table's fault or the chip's fault or, the air conditioner's fault. It's just the way that it worked out. And so I think when you have conversations with yourself or with others, to give yourself the grace and the respect to say, hey, this is just a tool in my toolbox to achieve other things in life. It can be very funny. It's just a tool.
It's just a tool. I love that. That's a great transition. What's the one rule, or not the one, but what's one rule that about money, that we think about money, that we should all quietly stop following that rule?
Well, I think when you're thinking about all this, and I think this just ties into laughter and like why enjoy life, why enjoy these moments and smile. This isn't my quote. This is a quote from someone else. But like, people only think other people die. And what that causes in my world is people will put off things, just like they put off their favorite vacation or put off whatever, because like, oh, I'll get to it. Well, now you're going to put yourself in a situation where you're constantly saying, oh, this is another year or another New Year's resolution that I'll get to eventually. But there's no guarantees. And the cool thing is when you handle some of the stuff, when you book your favorite vacation, when you take care of your finances and, take care of a budget and set up everything for your kids, you get to leave all that behind you. And now guess what? You get to be more present, more in the moment. You get to enjoy more of what's going on with your kids' lives, with what's going on with your business, because you got this thing checked off and behind you. And I think that's just a release of weight to allow your chest and your shoulders that space to laugh and smile and say, doesn't matter what life's going to throw me. I got it today. This is going to be great.
Yeah. What's one thing about money that you were taught when you were a kid that you've had to unlearn?
I think the big one there for what I've had to unlearn is that a 401k is enough. It seemed, and I don't, again, because we never talked about it, I can't really confirm this, but it seemed like everyone just set money in a savings account and, you went to work for some corporation, they gave you a 401k match, and then you just put your money in and that was the end of it. And that was going to be enough. On the other side of it, now that I've kind of learned what I've learned, it can be the case, but there's no guarantee. And until you dig in and really figure that out, like, you won't know what you don't know. And so, that's where I would say, like, it's an important habit to set money aside in savings. It's an important habit to set money aside in retirement accounts. But is it enough or not? Am I doing enough? You won't really know until you apply some math to it. And I think that's one of the things that people are told, oh, if I do this, we'll do the minimum, you get Social Security, and then the government just takes care of the rest and your family takes care of the rest. Sure, but do you want to bet on that? And so that's one of the big things that I've had to unlearn personally.
Especially nowadays with children, or I shouldn't say children necessarily, but young people just growing up, the government's already making all these cuts now. And so they might not have very much help, or any help from the government,
right.
Later on. So, right. So, what do you personally do to recover after you had an especially emotional day?
Well, I think the first thing I try to do, if I can't get to the gym or like work out, I'll at least try to get outside for a walk and get some fresh air. I find and it's easy to say, I'm here in Southern California. There's not too many days where that's gonna be a problem, but that's the first step usually. And as I'm processing things, I definitely lean on my wife, as a sounding board, and we have a great understanding and a great relationship where some days her or I will need to talk about something, and I don't necessarily need an answer or a solution. I just need to talk. I need to get it out so I have the space to think about it. And so, that's step 2. And, step 3 would be, I do like to find, like, if it's a really bad day, I find myself going back to like old movies like Mighty Ducks D2 or stuff like that, stuff that made me smile. Cool Runnings, a favorite of mine from when I was a kid. The psych of coffee and, hey, you dead, man? Oh, no. So I love that. And then I usually close out the day, step 4 right before I go to sleep, just to make sure that I get my mind, fully ready for the next day. Is I actually, spend, about 15 minutes every night meditating. And that helps, give that final space from my thoughts and gets me back in control.
Yeah. So when you're back in control, when you feel like you belong, what does that feel like?
It feels calm. I've done that process for enough now to like recognize, like, this might be just me, but if you're listening and you get like, you feel like the thoughts are like literal physical presences flying back and forth behind your, like right behind your forehead, like above your eyes, like where your brain is like actively sending these messages back and forth, and it feels like a ping pong ball going back, and sometimes it goes so fast. And going through the process, doing the lighthearted movies and finding that space to laugh and to talk and to get the exercise and then go to the meditation, it gets that little ping pong ball to just rest. And, again, kind of gives me that space where like my head doesn't feel like, it's bouncing all over the place. It's like I'm calmly reasserting that I tell my mind not what to do. My mind doesn't tell me what to do.
Right. Very good. Which is yet another transition back to talking about money. You said, and I love this, that money is a tool.
Yeah.
Money is a tool.
Yeah.
Andrew, how can we use that tool better?
A little bit's going to depend on a case-by-case basis. So I encourage you all, like, if you want to have that conversation, like more detailed, noshameanddollar.com is a great way to get in touch with me to have that conversation. But just generally as a tool, I guess understand that, having more money doesn't necessarily eliminate problems, even on the finance side, not to mention which, buying things, of course, is the old adage, is not going to make you happier. but how everything is structured and how that all looks, like an easy thing for people to do. If like, sometimes this is like really staring in the mirror and facing yourself a little bit is, if it's just yourself or you have a family that you need to do this with, sit down and take a look at what that budget looks like. Like, it's an easy step. You don't need to pay anyone to do it, but you've got money coming in, you've got money going out. And taking the time to understand what that is. And, for a lot of the people I work with, food deliveries, that's actually usually a funny one. That someone go like, I had no idea I spent that much on DoorDash. And they were kind of upset with themselves. And it was a cool realization. It's like, oh, we just, you didn't have to make any more money to discover that you had some more power in your world to set aside for your future. And so that's an easy way, but that's a very, going back to the vulnerable conversation that we had before, like, you have to be pretty straight with yourself to sit down and do that and be like, hey, do I need 4 TV subscriptions, or can I get by with 2 or 3 or maybe even 1? And really kind of having that honest conversation with yourself and allowing yourself the space and the grace to be like, yeah, I did this. Maybe it wasn't all necessarily intentional, but I can make some changes and create a little bit of options and flexibility for myself.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So, just a couple more questions. We have all of your information is in our show notes. You have said your website once before, but I'd like to give you another opportunity to share with our listeners how they can best get a hold of you.
Sure. Appreciate that. NoShameInADollar.com is definitely the easiest way to get in touch with me. All that is really a promise to continue the conversation. And if not now, sometime in the future, that's definitely the easiest. Of course, you can always find me on LinkedIn or something like that as well. But, I'm here and I do what I do because I love it. Don't tell anyone this, but I would do what I do for free if I could. I think it's that important to help out in this kind of stuff because I help families create options and flexibility in their lives through, simple and compassionate planning.
Yeah.
And kind of taking a look at that holistically, using the tools that are available to us specific to your situation, I think is really important because I want to create the environment that you have nothing in the world to worry about. And it's kind of a don't worry, be happy, to steal the song. I want that release and that ability to be present for your life so you can just laugh. When your kids do something funny, let it be funny. When I coach the toddlers, they are absolutely hilarious what they do in head to toe protective equipment and padding. So being able to be there and not have to worry about this other stuff in life to kind of eliminate some of that chaos behind the scenes, that's what I'm there for. And that's how I love to work with people and help them achieve that state.
Great. So, Andrew, what's one thing that you'd like our listeners to remember after this episode ends?
I'd like everyone to remember that there are a lot of reasons why the financial industry in general has earned some bad press. So when you're, if you do take the time, you want to, continue the conversation with me or any other financial professional out there, take the time to interview carefully. And I guess, my favorite question to tell people to ask is, what are you most proud of? Ask that person. And honestly, you could do that with any professional, really. But I think that question, it'll allow the other person to answer what they think is the most important and how they show up. And if that aligns with you, then great. If it doesn't, then it's time to move on to the next person, whatever that looks like. So you deserve to work with someone that you trust. You deserve to work with someone that you enjoy. You deserve to work with someone that is going to be ultimately beneficial to you and your family. And really, in all things. So that's what I would say, is just because, someone did it first, maybe it's not the right fit. Maybe there's someone out there that can help achieve kind of your goals more holistically.
Okay. And with that, Andrew, what are you most proud of?
Fair question. The situation for my job that I'm most proud of was really exactly that, is the unfortunate situation where a client of mine, she gave me a call and she said, Dad died. And I go, oh my gosh, what happened? Because I knew her dad, they're family friends of ours, and it was not expected. And what we did together and me helping her and her husband out through that situation is I allowed her the space to be a daughter and to, go through the emotions that situation entails, and give her that space to be a human and really recover and kind of get through that all as really smooth as possible.
Wow. Beautiful. Beautiful. All right. So let us go back and reveal the lie. Once again, I will remind the audience, Andrew was once run over by a boat. He started working at the age of 10 in a candy store, and he was at one time of his life a professional hockey player. Andrew, which is the lie?
I never played hockey professionally.
Oh. Okay. Well, Andrew, thank you so much for playing with us, for talking with us, for sharing your soul with us. This was such a wonderful, full of gems and takeaways. And for those of you who are listening, please come back next week. We are going to have yet another special guest. If you are experiencing any emotional trouble, then call someone. Talk to someone. You should never have to go through it alone. And if you know of someone who's experiencing some emotional trouble, laugh. Just laugh. Because healing doesn't have to be heavy. And your laughter helps open the door for your friend. Until next week, I'm Malcolm Grissom, and he is Andrew, not Quebbemann. Yes, Quebbemann. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Lighten Up Project. Bye, y'all. Stressed out, stuck, or leading on autopilot? It's not a motivational problem, it's a connection problem. My weekly virtual improv classes boost engagement, collaboration, and retention, all while having fun. Register now for a complimentary month.